Hello and welcome to Wavescan, the International DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written in Indianapolis by Adrian Peterson and produced in the studios of WRMI in Miami, Florida. I'm Jeff White. Today on Wavescan, Focus on Africa, radio broadcasting in the land of the mountain lion, Part 3. The shortwave station in Sierra Leone meets its Waterloo, and our Australian DX report. Wavescan presents Focus on Africa, a year-long series of reports about shortwave broadcasting and listening on the African continent. Waterloo. If you do a Google search for the word Waterloo, you'll find more than 100 million entries in total altogether. Then, in the first few pages of these entries, you'll find a dozen or more places in several different countries that are named Waterloo. The original Waterloo was a small town in what is now Belgium, and all of the other places named Waterloo have been given that name in honor of the famed Battle of Waterloo that took place nearly 200 years ago. Back in those days, this original Waterloo was located in what was then a part of Holland, and the name in the Dutch language could be translated as wet forest, a low, swampy area. These days, children learn in their history lessons at school that the Battle of Waterloo was fought on Sunday, June 18, 1815, and that Napoleon was disastrously defeated. Hence, he met his Waterloo. A total of some 173,000 soldiers were engaged in the battle of the day, with a hideous total of 63,000 casualties. Napoleon surrendered and was exiled to the island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. The town of Waterloo in New Jersey in the United States has established a historic old village as a tourist attraction, recreating the early Indian days. Back in 1888, a nearly complete fossil skeleton was found near the Indiana town with the same name, and this is on display in the Museum of Natural History in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Waterloo Station in London, England, is a large double railway station, part underground in their tube system and part above ground as an international rail terminal. It is reported that nearly 100 million passengers are served at this massive railway station every year. The underground railway system in Sydney, Australia, also boasts its Waterloo Station. Well, the city of Waterloo in Sierra Leone is located 20 miles southeast of their national capital, Freetown, and it has a population of 40,000. It was established in 1819, just 4 years after the Battle of Waterloo, and it was named in honor of this historic military event. During the mid-1960s, a white paper was submitted to the Sierra Leone government outlining a proposal for a nationwide radio broadcasting system. This document suggested a large radio center at Magburuka in the middle of the country, with 3 shortwave transmitters at 10 kilowatts each, and production studios in 7 regional towns. This project was never implemented. A subsequent suggestion called for a 100 kilowatt shortwave transmitter to be established near Waterloo for nationwide coverage, instead of the Magburuka project. Neither was this project at Waterloo implemented, at least not in its original concept. However, in 1971, the government decided to install a 250 kilowatt shortwave transmitter at Freetown, and a contract was signed with the Swiss manufacturer during the following year. Now, it just so happened that the German government was negotiating a trade agreement with the Sierra Leone government during this era, and it appears that a German financial grant aided in establishing this new facility. However, the location for the 250 kilowatt transmitter was now not at Freetown, nor at Goderich, but instead at Waterloo. The facility housing this new 250 kilowatt BBC transmitter from Switzerland, model SK53, was officially opened with due ceremony in August 1974, and initial test broadcasts began in October. These introductory test broadcasts were heard in Australia. Then, on October 15th, and that was still in the same year, 1974, the transmitter was inaugurated in a special ceremony in which the President of Sierra Leone participated. This ceremony was broadcast live on 5980 kHz, and it was heard in New Zealand and reported in the Australian monthly journal Electronics Australia. Soon afterwards, irregular test broadcasts on behalf of Deutsche Welle in Germany were heard via this transmitter, and these were listed in the World Radio TV Handbook for the following year. The well-known international radio monitor Wendell Craighead in suburban Kansas City, Kansas, received a QSL from Deutsche Welle confirming these broadcasts, and this seems to be the only known QSL for this Deutsche Welle relay via SLBS Waterloo. 3 years later, this high-power transmitter was reported as operating at half power, 125 kilowatts, and then apparently only spasmodically. For the next 10 years, almost nothing is known as to what was happening regarding the usage of this transmitter. In January 1988, the Australian DX News reported that the 250 kilowatt transmitter at Waterloo was already sold to a radio organization in Kuwait, and that it was apparently on the air with new programming. Then, for another 8 years, almost nothing was heard about the usage of this transmitter under the Kuwaiti organization, though subsequently it was believed that it was already on the air in continuous usage, with the broadcast of Muslim programming under the title Radio Al-Quran. During this time, states the magazine printed by the Japan Shortwave Club, a studio was in operation at Newton, some 20 miles north of Freetown, though a French radio monitor, Bernard Chenal, visited the station in 1995 and described a studio at Kissytown in suburban Freetown. Perhaps both reports were correct, though covering different time periods. In any case, the scheduling for Radio Al-Quran was from 1500 to 1900 UTC on 9630 kHz, and the transmitter at Waterloo was powered by the station generator with an omnidirectional antenna system. These broadcasts apparently escaped the observations of distant international radio monitors all over the world for a period of some 8 years, or perhaps many more, an event that is quite rare in the long history of shortwave broadcasting and monitoring. The Danish Shortwave Club International, in a report from the editor, stated that in Europe only a jammer was noted on this channel, apparently against Taiwan. In addition, stated Andy Sennett in Media Network from Radio Netherlands, the timing of the on-air broadcasts did not support long-distance propagation. However, the station reported that they had received letters from listeners living in Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. 4 years later, Hans Johnson in the United States reported in 1999 that he phoned the station, and they stated that yes, the Waterloo transmitter was indeed on the air, and that the schedule showed 3316 kHz from 0600 to 0800 and 1800 to midnight, and 5980 kHz from 0800 to 1800. That was the last known report from this enigmatic transmitter in West Africa, back in February 1999, when apparently the transmitter was on the air at half power. At the time, the station was carrying a relay of the regular broadcast service from SLBS, the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Service. That was the end. On the next occasion, when we examine the radio broadcasting scene in Sierra Leone, we'll take a look at all of the relay services carried out on shortwave by SLBS, the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Service.
You're listening to Wavescan from Adventist World Radio. Send your comments and reception reports to Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the United States. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana 46229 in the USA. Or you can email us at wavescan@awr.org. Our email once again, wavescan@awr.org.
item of DX News from Harold Sellers of Vernon, British Columbia, Canada. He heard the voice of Indonesia on 9526 kHz, putting a good signal into British Columbia on April 21st. Although weak at the beginning of an English broadcast at 1300 UTC, it quickly rose in strength following opening announcements of ID, frequencies, website, and world news began at 1301 and 45 seconds. When this concluded at 1310, a man began with news from across the country. Here's a recording now of an Indonesian program from the Voice of Indonesia.
RRI World Service, Voice of Indonesia. Informing, connecting, dignifying. Voice of Indonesia, siaran internasional Radio Republik Indonesia di Jakarta, menghadirkan berita dan informasi aktual serta hiburan. Anda masih bersama kami di RRI World Service Voice of Indonesia melalui id.voi.co.id.
And that recording, incidentally, was not an off-air recording. It was from their website. That item of DX News from Harold Sellers in British Columbia, Canada. He's editor of the World English Survey and Target Listing on the Ontario DX Association. Their website is www.odxa.on.ca. Now for our national anthem today, let's listen to Indonesia Raya, which means Great Indonesia, the national anthem of that country.
Greetings to shortwave enthusiasts around the world. This is Bob Padula in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, with another edition of the Australian DX Report. These magazines provide news of shortwave broadcasting stations, monitoring summaries, propagation news, and other information concerning world international broadcasting. As I start to remind you that full detailed QSLs are available for correct reports received for these episodes. The address will be given at the end of the program. And to note that all times, days and dates given in our episodes are in UTC, and we use the 24-hour time system. The episodes are compiled from resources made available by the Electronic DXpress Radio Monitoring Association, which is based here in Melbourne. Opening our program this time, as usual, we have information from the Ionospheric Prediction Service in Sydney, New South Wales, concerning solar activity. The IPS reports that solar activity is now remaining at a low level. The 10.7 centimetre solar radio flux has dropped to 148, and the smooth equivalent sunspot number has fallen to 102. That's 102. And those figures are not expected to change dramatically in the immediate future. An effect on shortwave propagation with this low solar activity means that high frequency signals on darkness or semi-darkness paths on frequencies above about 12 megahertz on long distance routes will not be very reliable. But signals on the frequencies above about 12 megahertz on daylight paths should be satisfactory. We're currently we're moving through the sunspot cycle number 24, and it's expected that this cycle will peak towards the end of the current year, 2013. Now, first of all, some monitoring observations made here in Melbourne recently in the 31 and 22 metre bands during our post-sunrise period, and these are between 1900 and 2000. First of all, 22 metres, 13740 Radio France International from Issoudun with French programming. And on 31 metres, a number of stations, good signals. These are from 2000 to 2030. 9320, the Voice of the Islamic Republic of Iran with Arabic programming. 9325, Radio Algeria, broadcasting from the relay station in Issoudun in France in Arabic. 9390, Radio Thailand, broadcasting in English until signing off at 1958. And on 9400, another frequency for the Voice of the Islamic Republic of Iran, English from 2000. And 9420, the Voice of Greece in Greek, also from 2000. All these signals are between 2000 and 2030. 9425, the Voice of Korea, signing on at 2000 with the relay of the Korean Central Broadcasting Service, programming in Korean. And 9430, the Voice of Vietnam from the Dubaya UAE relay station in German. A stop from that frequency, 9440, China Radio International with English from the Kunming site. And 9460, the Voice of Turkey with programs in Turkish. And 9470, China National Radio Network 1 in Chinese, of course. And 9525, China Radio International from Beijing in Russian. And we'll come back to some more monitoring observations after this. Radio Free Sarawak continues to make frequency changes almost on a daily basis. The latest frequency is 15420, which is used between 1100 and 1300 with programs in local languages for Sarawak. It's now understood, according to the Radio Bulgaria monitoring website, that these transmissions are coming from the Taiwan relay. It had previously been thought that these broadcasts were originating from Trincomalee in Sri Lanka, but it now seems as though Taiwan is the preferred location. Now, North Korea. The Voice of Korea appears to have introduced several new higher powered shortwave transmitters, and these are giving quite good reception in various parts of the world. And the new schedule has been placed on the Radio Bulgaria monitoring website, giving details of all of the current frequencies for the Voice of Korea. The programs between 0300 and 0357, these are now listed on 11735 in Spanish to Central and South America, and 13760, the same area, same language, and again on 15180 in Spanish to Central and South America. And Chinese programs to Southeast Asia, 13650 and 15105. At 0400 to 0500, 8 frequencies are in use. They are 3250 in English to Northeast Asia, 9445 English also to Northeast Asia, and again on 9730. Now that English program between 0400 and 0500 is also carried to Central and South America on 11735, 13760 and 15180. And French to Southeast Asia, currently 13650 and 15105. Now, Voice of Korea at 0500 0600, the number of frequencies listed there. Chinese on 3250 to Northeast Asia, 9445 to the same area, 9730, and Spanish 11735 to Central and South America, 13760 to the same area, and 15180 to the same area. And finally, an English program, 15105 to Southeast Asia. At 0600, more frequencies are listed. English programs 3250 to Northeast Asia, 9445 to Northeast Asia, and again on 9730. And the French programming 11735 and 13760 to Central and South America, as well as 15180. And the Chinese program from the Voice of Korea at 0600 to 0700 is 13650 and 15105. So that's quite a variety of frequencies for Voice of Korea, apparently using new higher powered transmissions or new higher powered transmitters, and that's central information from Radio Bulgaria monitoring. Now, we continued with further monitoring observations made here in Melbourne in the 31 metre band between 2000 and 2030. 9555, the Saudi Arabia Broadcasting Service in Arabic. 9565, the Voice of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Russian. 9570, Spanish Foreign Radio in Arabic. 9585, China Radio International from Kashi in Serbian. And 9600, China Radio International in English from Kunming. And 9620, All India Radio with its Arabic service to the Middle East. And 9610, Adventist World Radio from Nauen in Germany with French programming to Europe. And the Voice of Turkey with the French broadcast on 9635. Another frequency for Saudi Arabia is 9675 with Turkish to the Middle East, and 9685 Spanish Foreign Radio with French. And 9835 Radio Television Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, carrying the programs from the Sarawak regional station in Malay. And 9845 China National Radio Network 1 in Chinese, and 9865 China Radio International from Kunming in Chinese. And finally 9895, the Voice of Russia from the Yerevan, Armenia, transmitting or relay site in English. So quite good reception from various stations in the 31 metre band in our Melbourne pre or post sunrise period between 2000 and 2030. That's all we have time for in our episode of the Australian DX Report, which came to you from Melbourne in Victoria, Australia. I'd just like to remind you that we offer full detail QSL cards showing Australian scenes and wildlife for correct reports received for these broadcasts. We also offer an email QSL service for reports sent via the internet or email. Full details about the QSL service are available at the Electronic DXpress homepage, which is simply edxp.org. So until our next program, this is Bob Padula in Melbourne and Victoria, Australia, wishing you all good listening. Thanks for being with us and good DX. See you soon.
Hawaiian music closes out Wavescan today. Thank you for listening to the International DX program from Adventist World Radio. Researched and written by Dr. Adrian Peterson in Indianapolis. Next week on Wavescan, American States on Shortwave, Washington, D.C., Memories of an Eclipse, South Pacific Panorama, Pacific Island Radio, and our Japan DX report. We have QSL cards available for your reception reports on Wavescan, one from AWR, another from WRMI. We'll give you the address here in just a moment for your reports. A reminder that you can hear Wavescan live at the time of broadcast on the internet streams, awr.org, wrmi.net, wwcr.com, and winb.com. You can also hear Wavescan live via WINB's live telephone stream. You can dial them up at the time of broadcast at 1 for the United States, then 415-655-0846. On your iPod, you can download Wavescan podcasts at awr.org. And Wavescan is available for download and rebroadcast by radio stations in any part of the world. If you'd like to broadcast Wavescan on your station, you can make a request to Wavescan or to WRMI. You can contact us at Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. That's Wavescan, Box 29235, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46229, USA. You can contact us by email at wavescan@awr.org. That's wavescan@awr.org. I'm Jeff White at WRMI in Miami. Till next week, good listening, everyone.